You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Horror Ramblings Podcast, the show about all things horror. We hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Horror Ramblings Podcast. I need to be more creative with stuff. This is Les, as always, and it is one of them days. I'm tired. I know Steven's kind of tired, but we got to give you people what you want or don't want. I'm not really sure these days.
Well, you know, I feel like it's hard to trace metrics anymore because I've noticed our viewership seems to be a little bit higher on YouTube because the Freddy episodes got some listens, boy, let me tell you what. But I'm not seeing the same in the podcasting space, so I don't know what that's about.
Strange. Very strange.
Yeah, it happens. I don't understand it sometimes. You'll see just upticks in the weirdest places.
You know, I wish that they would take and... I know YouTube's its own thing, so they don't always show the metrics for that with the podcasting stuff, but I wish when you would put your podcast on YouTube as well, I wish they would just bring it over and combine it all. I mean...
Well, now they have done something in recent months, I believe. I feel like this is something that they recently did, is where you can create a podcast, if you will. Mm-hmm. So what you have to do, and it was very specific. I kind of bothered me a little bit because I spent all this time trying to organize all the videos. But
Right.
if you want to take, like our podcast, for example, I had split it up into seasons. So here's a playlist for one season, playlist for this season. And they said, well, if you want to make this a podcast, put them all together. And I was like, well, now, damn it, I just separated it. But if you put it all together, label it as a podcast, then they will put it on their podcasting platform, whatever that is.
Huh.
Weird. I don't know. But you have to be very specific, and you have to make sure that all the episodes are labeled properly, and everything is labeled exactly what it needs to be so they can promote it properly.
And see, that confuses me because with YouTube, unless you have like the premium YouTube, you can't just listen. You have to have your phone open or your device open to, listen. So
yeah, and it's such a why do you have to pay extra for that feature? That doesn't make any sense.
see, and
They're already saddling you with ads.
see, and I agree with that. And I mean, if you're gonna pay extra, I know YouTube has its own like what is it, like YouTube TV or something like that they call it.
Mm.
They're already making money off of that. Just roll that feature out to people. I mean,
Yeah.
oh, speaking of rolling things out and things like that, on Tubi right now, the Fred Heads documentary, that I unfortunately missed the chance to record on. They even let me know that there was an extended time, and for some reason it just didn't line up, so I didn't get to make it to the documentary. But a lot of those people that are involved with that are really nice people. It's on Tubi now. They actually released it early on Tubi, so something to add to your watch list, and for the viewers to add to their watch list. It was made with a lot of love, so I wanted to give that a shout out while it was still on my mind.
Excellent.
So, any news on your end? I figured I'd ask real quick. I know you tend to look into some things and see if there's anything interesting out there.
Let me dig around because I don't remember seeing anything this week that really stood out to me as big news. There might have been some Blu-ray stuff or something. I don't really feel like there was that much this week. But I will take a peek just to be sure before I set it in stone. No. Oh, no. That's nothing.
I don't know.
It's like you catch glimpses and you're like, oh.
I don't know how true this is. I feel like I just saw a video of it somewhere, and it kind of goes in line with what we're talking about today a little bit. But apparently Nick Cage might be in Dead by Daylight in the video game. They're talking about adding him to the video game.
No, he is going to be in the game.
Okay. I thought I had seen it.
This is a done deal.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I had seen it, but I wasn't sure.
And you know, the question that I saw a lot of people pose is why? And my response is, well, why not? I mean, it's Nick Cage. Him just being Nick Cage in Dead by Daylight is about as perfect as it'll ever get, because no other actor could just be in that game as themselves.
You know what's funny too? I could see him as the killer. Like they could have a killer version of Nick Cage, and they could have a survivor version. Like, he could fit both.
And why not? Yeah, why not? I think that would be hilarious.
Oh, I also saw some clips and some images from the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game. Some new stuff. It's looking pretty epic. The family looks great. Yeah. I saw a picture of all the family members, and I mean, it looks like it's going to be good.
Sure.
And I guess...
And one of the...
Good.
Well, I was going to say, one of the complaints that I've been hearing people have online, because, you know, people got to bitch about things, even though, look, you know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah.
Looking at how lovingly that's been reproduced, just, I can't even speak about how impressed I am. And just being able to, it's kind of like when I saw Friday the 13th, same team that started that game. They took their time to lovingly recreate iconic settings. Mm-hmm. We're seeing the farmhouse. Of course, they've added up and kind of, made it a little bit spacious. So there's a little extra things that maybe we didn't get to see, but it doesn't matter. The primary spot has been recreated down to the last detail, and that's... I couldn't ask for anything more.
Right.
But you have people out there who are bitching and complaining because, what about Leatherface from Part 2? Or what about Leatherface from Part 3? Are we going to get to see that? You're talking about movies that are released under different studios, production houses, rights with different people, especially early on until, New Line got their hands on it?
I think so,
And
yeah.
I think they did 3... Don't think that had anything to do with 4, but then the remakes.
Yeah.
I know that they had their at least distribution for that. But, the producer was like, rights, man. We can't just throw these characters in. As much as we'd love to, we can't, because rights are a problem.
Everybody wants to get
and
paid.
They're scattered all over the place. Exactly. So why not just be happy with what they're giving you?
Yeah.
Because that alone is impressive. I'm going to buy it.
Oh, yeah.
And, there's no doubt. So...
Well, and
shut up and enjoy it.
Well, and it's not like they can't add some of their own Leatherfaces if they want to. I mean, you might not get exactly what you want, but I mean, it's kind of an open slate. You could create your own Leatherfaces. I mean, it would be kind of cool to see some different versions and whatnot. I know on another topic of as far as film goes, but video game related, I have heard that there is some new life being breathed into another Friday the 13th game. I wish they would somehow manage to make the game happen. That already exists. I wish they could get that figured out. That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got the chance to listen to the episode I did with my friend Chad, but we were talking about horror video games. Mm-hmm. And he made a really good point, because I was talking about characters that need video games. Like, I think Michael Myers should get his own. Like, I know there's some, like, indie Michael Myers games. It would be cool to have a full-fledged Michael Myers game. And we did talk about Freddy, and I said, that one's a little more complicated, I think, because he can do anything. He's in the dream world.
Yeah.
And he was talking about some games that he plays. He's like, they could go from the approach where you have all these different abilities provided to you, but you only have certain ones that you can maybe master and use. Okay. So you could have multiple different versions of the same character. And I thought about that, and I thought that was kind of a cool concept. But I know this is going to sound weird coming from me, because I don't talk about it a lot. It's a franchise I love, but I don't talk about it a lot. I would love for a really good Chucky video game. There's so much possibility there. So much.
Oh, yeah.
And the cool thing about it, too, is you could even have multiplayer for the villains. You could have Chucky, Tiffany, the kids. It would be really interesting to see that if they could pull that off. I mean, we're getting a Killer Clowns video game.
Sure, yeah, why not?
I mean,
I'm down for it.
But I don't know. I'm all over the place. I love seeing the slashers. I know Dead by Daylight got a lot of the slashers, and they had Leatherface. They didn't have Jason because he had his own game. They got Freddy. They had Ghostface, Michael Myers, Pinhead.
Mm-hmm.
You know that.
Even what was her name from Saw?
Oh yeah, the person with the pig mask on. I can't think of their name.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
I can't either.
you know, there's all kinds of games that come out. I'm surprised, as weird as it sounds. You know, they have all these shark games out. Imagine if they made a Tremors video game and you could play as a graboid.
Oh man, yes.
That would be pretty bad.
I would be down for that.
That would be pretty badass.
I don't know if anyone, I'm sure we haven't talked about it since we're talking about sharks. Great segue, by the way. But yeah, one of my all-time favorite shark games, which when the game was announced, and it's been out for a few years now, but when it was announced, it seemed like it would be just kind of cheesy, crazy, stupid. Like I was in immediately, and it's called Maneater.
I have that.
I do too. I love it so much. It was just like everything I ever wanted out of a shark game. And I was excited because how many shark games do we have?
Yeah.
And the few that we do have are awful. They're just, they shouldn't be that bad.
You know what's
but they are.
You know what's hilarious? There was a Jaws video game that was really popular. Like I want to say it was like the early 2000s, maybe.
Yeah, Jaws Unleashed. I think is what it was.
I remember going to our video store here in town, and I'm one of those people. I will rent the weirdest video games you can think of, just because I think they might be fun. That's how I got my buddy sold on Lego Star Wars, because he didn't think it would be good, and I was like, dude, trust me. But I rented Jaws Unleashed, and I beat that game in a single night because I played the whole damn thing. And I was like you, I'd been waiting for the chance to play some more, because I love games where you can play as like different things.
Yeah.
Like I get tired of just, oh, I'm the hero, or oh, I'm the villain, or this, that, or the other. It's like, oh, I get to play as a shark? Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And then Maneater come out, and I got to play it for a little while. I played it like for free on one of the systems. They had like if you were like subscribed to their monthly thing, you could play it for free.
Yeah.
But then my buddy for my birthday actually was like, I know you like weird games, Les, so here you go. And he got it for me. And that's cool. I didn't know you liked that video game. It's such a great game.
I've played and beat it to completion twice. Once on the PlayStation 4, and then when they bounced it over to PS5, I just updated and said, well, no, I'm doing this again, man.
That is awesome.
It was just so much fun.
Oh.
Such a great game.
Speaking of games, and I don't want to get too far off topic of what we're talking. We're already off topic, but that happens.
Yeah.
We went garage sailing the other day, and this guy had a bunch of PS4 games, and he was selling for like $5 a piece. And I didn't really see anything like too promising, but I was like, I can play some of these. PS5 is backwards compatible, so I'm digging through it. And the Ghostbusters video game. I don't know if you've ever played that. Yeah, they had it for.
I have indeed.
They had it for $5, and I was like, yeah, I'm getting this, because. It's
not a bad game.
They were going to actually, apparently, from what my understanding was, that game was going to help set up a new movie, apparently.
Yeah.
Like, there were some aspects of it that were going to be, like, set up into a new movie, and that would have been cool.
I think a lot of the, from as I understand it, a lot of the plot elements were pulled from a third script. I don't know which one, but I think there were some elements here, elements there, and then they just tried to figure out a way to incorporate the new kid.
Yeah.
Because I think that was also part of the idea, is that we're going to try to get in some new younger Ghostbusters, and then once that kind of fell apart as far as the movie, they were just like, well, just make it the player gets to be the new guy, and we'll just kind of play it off of that. So there are elements to that, and I'm sure they had to kind of work it and rewrite it to work for a video game. But yeah, I've heard that very same thing.
I know too, when they were talking about doing the movies and having younger Ghostbusters come in, I know there was some speculation going around, and keep in mind this was, several years ago, that they were going to like have a couple of like rising comedians at the time come on and be like either the kids of the Ghostbusters, or like, people that they've hired on. And one that I thought was interesting, and I don't know how it would go, but I think it would just be hilarious to hear him trap a ghost and laugh about it. Seth Rogen. They talked about him. Yeah, that would have been awesome. I don't know. I like Seth Rogen as an actor.
Yeah, no, I don't have any problem with
the dude's like done pretty much. I've liked everything I've seen him in, just about. So, but no, one other video game thing real quick. God, we're going to do a video game podcast today, aren't we? One other video game thing I think would be cool. I would love to see, it doesn't have to be Jurassic Park. It doesn't have to be, but it would be cool to play as not even a giant dinosaur or anything. I think it would be kind of cool to play as like a raptor or something in a video game.
Yeah.
I don't know, something about the different, I mean, I don't want to play a game where I'm a horse for 2 hours and just trot around in a field somewhere. Like, I don't want to do that. But
Right.
being able to like be different things in video games is just, is kind of cool. I know on the PS5, I can't think of what the game's, is it called Stray, about the cat?
Oh, yeah, that was a lot of fun, yeah.
Exactly, it's a puzzle game, and you get to play as a cat, and there's a button that you can hit to meow, and people freaking loved it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just...
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's just...
And again, like you said, doing something you don't get to do.
Yeah.
Give me more of that stuff. I would love that.
It's funny. I have all these games here at the house. Like, I've got some new games that I haven't played yet. But for some reason, because I have an Xbox and I have a PlayStation. That's what we have a Switch too. But right now, I've been playing between the PS5 and the Xbox One. So Xbox has the Fable games on Game Pass, and I remembered playing Fable 2 and really enjoying it. So right now, I've been playing Fable 2. Fable 2, and I'm like, why am I playing? I have all these new games that I need to beat, and here I am going back and playing Fable 2. I don't know. I know I'm excited for Super Mario RPG.
God, yes.
What was the other new Mario? They changed the art style. Was it like Wonder?
Super Mario Wonder?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That looks...
It's kind of the 2D, but not quite.
It looks like it's going to be interesting, too. And I'm really looking
trippy.
I'm really looking forward to it. And I guess Peach is getting her own game, and they added some characters to. They're doing a new Mario Kart, and they added some characters that you can race as that I didn't think you could ever race as.
I think some of them were characters you could race that were available in other games at one point in time, and now they're just adding them as playable now.
Because they have the I can't think of what the plants, because there's a specific name for the plants.
Yeah, piranha plant.
Thank you.
Petey piranha.
Out of their tube, they've got like little tiny legs, and like you can race as them, which is cool. The only thing I want to see, I didn't see the whole trailer, but when we used to play Yoshi's Tetris Attack,
yeah.
my go-to character was the little, I think he was a bumblebee or he was a hornet. He was one of the two.
I think I know who you're talking about, yeah.
He was my favorite character to play as for some reason. So if they put him in the game as a character that you can race as, I'm all for it. But anyways, anything else anything on the video game front or any other news that you have?
Well, yeah. Well, there was at least, I guess it doesn't make sense now.
No, go ahead, by all means.
It doesn't matter. Where I was talking about an interesting segue, and then we got it down Manhunter or Man-Eater, and that just went down a whole way of going. Anyway, what I was trying to bring up is that there will be a new documentary on Shudder on July 21st called Sharksploitation, talking about the rising tide of the shark subgenre in horror.
Okay.
So I'm assuming starting from Jaws, because I can't think of another one prior to Jaws that would be, like, seriously, I don't know of any killer shark movies.
Unless there was something like way back in like Black and White or something that was kind of like cheesy or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So starting there all the way up to where we are today with Sharknado or whatever the fuck. Now, look, hey, I'll admit this. I know last week they showed Sharknado on the last drive-in. I tried to sit through that movie with riff tracks, okay? So they are cutting jokes as I'm watching this movie, and I was having a hard time staying invested. That tells you something about that movie. Now, anybody who can enjoy it for what it is, I applaud you. It's such a hard watch for me, and maybe I don't know what it is. I'm not a fan of the Asylum stuff. I really am not, that's me. I don't know. People enjoy what they want, but
now
they're just not my cup of tea.
Have you seen the movie Black Demon? It's a newer shark film.
I have heard of it, and I've kept my eye on it because it seemed like it would be taken a little bit more seriously, but I've also not heard a lot of great things about it either, so I don't really know.
On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 25%. On IMDb, it's 4.1. and it's got a 2 out of 5 on another thing. I know the trailer looked cool, but I don't know. I think it was 47 meters down. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it. It wasn't too bad. I liked, Deep Blue Sea. I actually really enjoyed that movie, but I don't know. Me and shark movies, it's like a love-hate thing. But, you know, I guess the reason I have the love-hate thing for shark movies is because I think Jaws kind of spoiled everybody when it comes to shark movies. It's one of those things where they had it right. You have to keep it suspenseful. And I think that's why I also liked Deep Blue Sea, because for some reason Deep Blue Sea kind of helped me get the suspense back. It was thrilling to me. And I'm going to say this too, and this might be controversial to some people. Every shark movie now is nothing but CGI sharks. Bring us back some practical effects sharks.
I agree.
You can mix CGI in, but there's always something that you can tell when they're acting with a fake CGI shark. It's just like the Anaconda movie. The original one, they used some CGI, but they also had a big old snake puppet, and you can tell it seems so much more realistic, even the fear that the actors have. Because if I'm acting with something that's imaginary in front of me, I feel like people are going to be able to tell, even if I'm a great actor.
Oh, yeah.
But you have something for people to look at. I mean, it's just like the Marvel movies. You know, Thanos is CGI, but when they're doing the scenes, Brolin has a helmet with Thanos' head on. And so they know where to look. They know, what to talk to. It looks cheesy behind the scenes, but it makes it look a lot more realistic when you're watching it. So I don't know. What day did you say this documentary's coming on Shudder?
July 21st.
July 21st. I'm going to have to take a look. I've been on and off of Shudder. There was a movie on there that I watched a while back. It was Kids versus Aliens.
I've heard of that. I don't think I've seen it.
I thought it was a pretty good movie, but I hated the ending because I don't know if there's ever going to be a sequel. And that irritates me. It's just like with the Flash stuff. I guess the Flash is not doing very well in the box office. And apparently one of the things that was going to be discussed, if the Flash did really well, they were possibly going to look into doing a Batman Beyond movie with Michael Keaton, and that would have been great to see a Batman Beyond movie. I still hope it happens.
I think it could. I'm gonna at least hold my breath just for a little bit to think that James Gunn has stated anything can work as long as it's good. So if someone comes in with a great Batman Beyond pitch, I don't see him not allowing that if they wanted to do it. But again, I don't know that for certain, so I'm not going to bank on it and say, yes, this is absolutely going to happen one day. Just a missed opportunity.
Yeah, and on a note kind of regarding that, just to put this out there. Apparently, from what I was seeing, they asked Christian Bale to come back. Apparently, they wanted Christian Bale to take the place of Keaton, from what my hearing was. And apparently there's been some interviews about this. And instead of spoiler alerts, I guess, for anybody out there who's not seen The Flash yet, I haven't seen it, but I don't really mind if movies get spoiled for me, depending on what they are. George Clooney has an appearance as well. Apparently, it was supposed to be Christian Bale in Keaton's place, and Keaton was supposed to be in Clooney's place. Apparently, that was one of the things that was kind of circulating around. And I saw a post I'm going to die on this hill. I don't care what anybody says. I will die on this hill. Somebody said one of the reasons that The Flash didn't do very well is they tried to bank on Keaton as Batman bringing in the audience, and that it didn't matter because the nostalgia wasn't there anymore because that movie's over 34 years old. And I just said, time out. I said, you ask most people who their favorite Batman is, you're probably going to get Keaton. I'm just going to say that. I like Christian Bale. I do. I liked him as Batman. I thought he was a great Bruce Wayne. But when I think Batman, I think Keaton. But when I think who the best Batman is, Kevin Conroy. Just going to say it.
Sure.
Conroy was the Batman that most people know. So, and I didn't know if you knew this. Another side note before we get into the meat of everything. It's kind of a good thing because it's kind of a good thing that we have a lot of random things to talk about today, because while we have a subject today, I don't think that subject's going to be super, super long.
Sure.
as weird as that sounds. But Mark Hamill, apparently, when he tried out for the Joker, he went in thinking, they'll never give me this part. I played Luke Skywalker. They'll never give me this part because nobody could ever see Luke Skywalker as the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
So he went in and he did it. He did it without worrying at all because he didn't think he was going to get the part. So he did it thinking, I'm not going to get this part. And so he just went all in. And then they called him and he went, are you serious? So fun little trivial thing this morning, I guess, for everybody. And just so all you listeners know, if this episode sounds weird or anything else today, it has been a morning.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go ahead and say this like right now. We've already been interrupted, and hopefully editing, you'll never know it. But, and I don't mean interrupted by anyone. I'm talking about acts of God, if you will, have interrupted us. So, and if you hear rumblings of thunder or rain, I mean, there's nothing we can do. I didn't even know it was supposed to rain this early. I didn't even know it was supposed to rain today, period. And then I wake up this morning and there's warnings. And I was like, what? And it said 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock. It's not 1 o'clock now. It's far from 1 o'clock. And it's already rolled in. So I don't know what's happening today. I think I'm going to just stay inside and hunker down because I'm afraid to walk outside. Because I don't know what's happening.
The heavens have conspired against us. For some reason, they don't want to hear the Horror Ramblings podcast.
Jesus Christ. Anyway.
Oh, man. Oh, geez Louise. Anyways, do you have anything else before we get into the meat of the show?
No, I'm afraid to just say anything else at this point.
At least you're honest. So, a while back, we talked about Renfield. I hadn't watched it yet. We talked about it being on Peacock and the fact that I have not watched it. I finally got the chance to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to fucking talk about it because while it's not the perfect movie by any means, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I got Samantha to watch it with me, which doesn't happen too often. She about half watched it with me because she was doing her Sudoku or whatever that's called. But I gotta give it up to the movie. I mean, I told you what my biggest gripe about it was. I felt like it was rushed.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about it a little bit. I had told Samantha that I talked to you about it, and I was like, I'll probably talk about you on the show, Samantha, because, you know, I was letting Steven know that we watched it and that you and I kind of felt the same. And she said, you know, it felt rushed, and it felt a little anticlimactic there at the end. She said, I feel like this Dracula was more about just hacking and slashing. She's like, I know Dracula toys with his victims, and he did, you know, show that a little bit in the movie when he's trying to win over Rebecca from Renfield. You know, he's hugging her, trying to get her to join him, and he's smiling at Renfield like, you know, I'm taking everything from you. But I was thinking about what Samantha said about that. I was like, it's kind of true a little bit. Like, you know, it felt like they were just pushing through the story pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I know that you had said, and you put it great when you said, you know, they either rush through it or they give you way too much that you don't need. Like there's no happy in between. And the biggest thing that irritates me is I actually really want to see Nicolas Cage as Dracula again. And I would love to see some sort of sequel to this film. Maybe even a prequel of some kind. Maybe show the shenanigans and the trouble that they got into before everything went bad. I would love to see that. But the fact that this movie didn't do super well at the box office, I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm hoping that since it's on streaming now, a lot more people watch it, and maybe the streaming networks see that the film is getting attention and everything, and that happens. But it's just a fun movie.
Yeah.
And Nick Cage commits. Like, he freaking commits to being Dracula.
I want to shout that out real quick because kind of what we said about Benicio del Toro in The Wolfman, how he favored Lon Chaney Jr. I never thought Nicolas Cage ever favored Bela Lugosi, and I don't know if they did some special makeup or just some minor little additions, but when they did those recreations of scenes from the original Dracula film, which, you know, some people may not know this, but they, to my understanding, the idea was that they actually took the scene and then just put Nicholas Hoult and Nicolas Cage in those spots where the original actors were, and then they just recreated. So it was kind of a combination of old footage with new footage. And
They superimpose their faces. I gotcha.
right. But there were times I would look at Nicolas Cage and he would favor Bela Lugosi so much that it was uncanny. And I never, even looking at his face, I don't see it.
Yeah.
But in that movie, I could see it. And I was like, wow, that's uncanny. So it could be that same makeup shit that they pulled in Halloween.
Yeah.
Where they just did a few adjustments.
The scene where he goes into the church, where the meeting's happening and he's introducing himself, when he takes his hat off at first and he's talking, if you just kind of just really focus on him, you see the similarities, right?
Yeah.
Even right there, even not within the scenes that, that were in black and white and everything. You see it. And I was thinking about that going in. I was thinking about us having that conversation and everything. And the more that I watched him as Dracula, the more I was like, man, they couldn't have cast anybody better for this.
Yeah.
And I mean, his performance too. I mean, talk about somebody who can be a creep. Like I'm about 50% sure Nick Cage might be a little bit of a creep in real life because of this movie. But I also loved the concept of Renfield eating the bugs and what that did.
Yeah.
That was a new concept that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Especially considering that was a huge part of that character, seeing the bug eating.
And like I think that's an interesting way to look at it though. Like Dracula, like, because you think about this, you're like, Dracula needs an assistant to defend him, to bring him what he needs. His assistant would have to be strong, and like Dracula's not going to turn someone. And so I'm like looking at all this stuff, and I'm like, there has to be something, And the way that they explained it was perfect. Like they didn't over-explain it; they just presented it, and they left they left it to where your mind could wander a little bit on it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It was another concept of this movie that I thought was just really cool. And I don't know. To me, this movie was like it was like a breakup movie. It really was. Renfield was breaking up with Dracula, and Dracula did not deal with the breakup very well.
But that's the smart concept behind it. Is the idea has always been there. It's fleshing it out to make this narrative, because I know we were talking about maybe fleshing this out here, but I don't want to touch on it too much. But we've talked about it before. Just this idea of taking a familiar concept and putting a spin on it in some unique way. This was not a story I would have considered, because Renfield, not to knock the character or anything like that in the book or even in subsequent movie adaptations we've seen, but he's never been like this super prominent character.
Yeah.
Maybe more so in the book than films, but even in the films, it's just like, well, he's kind of there. He's kind of doing some things, and then he just kind of disappears. He never seems to be a very important character.
Yeah.
He has maybe like one important scene, and that's it. So it's just some idea that just seems a throwaway. So here we're actually exploring, who is this guy? Outside of what we already know about him. And then, okay, so if he is Dracula's his master, what does that mean? And then you just kind of go down that rabbit hole. It's like, okay, so he just wants out of this relationship. It's toxic. And then you throw in these things that shouldn't apply, but they do. Mm-hmm. And then that just makes the story more interesting. So the concept alone sold me. Yeah. It's like, what if Dracula was an abuser in a relationship?
Yeah.
Emotionally or what have you, and this guy wants out of it. And it makes complete and utter sense. Like even how they would do scenes where you'd have the confrontation in the apartment was another great scene. And I'll give it to Nicolas Cage. I know I've talked about his acting before, where he goes a little up and down, just like the manic. He didn't go super manic here, but when he did, at times I was wondering, it's like, well, am I going to enjoy that? But I think I did, because of how he undercut it with the sinister nature of the character. Yeah. Because he would be up here being all goofy and everything like that, and he's like, oh, what do you think about this? And then he just kind of seep back into being more sinister, and like, oh, okay. So it's like it brings your guard down, because he's being goofy, and then he goes back to being serious, and you're like, okay,
yeah,
ease up, dude. So I think that actually worked to the character's favor in this movie.
See, and to just piggyback real quick off of that, I think when it comes to Dracula, as weird as it sounds, I think you kind of need that to a degree. And the reason I say that is he's a charmer. Dracula's a charmer. He bends people to his will. He bends men and women to his will. And he has to be charismatic. He has to be kind of over the top to get that attention, to draw those people in. But there's still a monster there. And I think that's why I like Nick Cage in this so much. It's because, you know, like you said, Nick Cage tends to go over the top. But in this, when he goes over the top, it's so well done for the character.
Yeah.
You know, and to talk about the scene in the apartment, you know, I love when he's talking to Renfield and he's like, "Oh, are you going to enlighten me? Are you going to teach me? Oh, yes, read to me. Teach me all that you know. Give me more knowledge on how to feel," and, you know, all that. And he's just going off. And, you know, he tells Renfield, he's like, "I will reduce this studio apartment to ash." And, like, it's such a funny scene. And you don't know whether to laugh or, like, be legitimately worried for Renfield. And I feel like the only character that could really pull that off, like the only actor that could really pull that off other than Nick Cage, to me, would be like a Jim Carrey or something like that. That'd be cool, Jim Carrey as Dracula.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just that over-the-topness is what seems to work. And I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a big fan of Dracula Dead and Loving It and Leslie Nielsen's performance as Dracula in that. But I either like a really sinister Dracula who, even when they are charming, there's still that undertone of the sinister aspect of the character, or I like an over-the-top Dracula. Like, there's no in-between for me. I know that sounds weird, but it's just one of those things. I mean, I know, and I've said this before, and I know every time I say it, you're like, you've already said this before. I know your feelings on Nicolas Cage. Like, he's over the top sometimes, and I can see where that could be kind of something that would turn you away from him as an actor. But certain roles, I think it works for him.
And here, I would say it did, for sure. I don't want to knock that.
I think he should do more horror films. Like, I don't know why, I just feel like he has the personality for that. It's just like he was, what was it, Willy's Wonderland? It was like Five Nights at Freddy's before Five Nights at Freddy's.
Which is coming, by the way.
Movie-wise, anyways. Yes, the teaser trailer for that looked great, by the way. But even in that movie, he's just kind of over the top in a weird way.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny, you know, he's fighting these killer animatronics, but when break time comes, he's taking his break no matter what. Like, I love that. But, I mean, this movie had a good cast.
Yeah.
Like, not just Nicolas Cage as Dracula. Nicholas Hoult, I like him as an actor. Even though I will say this, I feel like he's the same pale shade that he was in the movie Warm Bodies as he was in this movie.
Yeah, I
don't think the guy tans.
No, I mean, I think he is British, so that would explain a lot.
That would make a lot of sense, yeah. But, I mean, he's a good actor.
Oh, yeah.
And I like him as these characters, because I remember seeing Warm Bodies, which is another, like, that's actually a pretty good movie, too.
It's not bad.
And to me, he's a very sympathetic character. And he's good at playing sympathetic characters. Like, for some reason, you really want to sympathize with him. And in this especially, I mean, the way he cowers and everything. Again, a scene that we talked about in his studio apartment, when he's reading from the book and he's stuttering and he's turning the pages. Like, you feel for him. Like, you are in an uncomfortable situation and I feel bad for you. Like, for me, when I'm watching it, that whole scene, I didn't even think of it as Dracula. I just thought of, oh, his abusive boyfriend's here and he's trying to tell him I deserve better. Like, you throw in the vampire aspect of it, and then you're like, oh, yeah.
You know, while we're on that scene real quick, I want to touch on this one little detail that they threw into this movie twice. And they didn't... It was almost like to say, if you are a fan of the lore of vampires, especially Dracula and the rules, we're not going to explain it to you. We're just under the assumption you know the rules. And the one rule that they didn't seem to try to explain, it was just there, so you either get it or you don't, is the entering somewhere, being invited. they never had to say, oh well, because I feel like this is one of those things that they would just over explain in a movie. It's like, well, you can't let him in without inviting him in first, and then we're going to tell you about it 4 or 5 more times, even though it's there. But you had 2 instances where they didn't go out of their way to explain it prior to that. It just happens. One was him walking into the meeting where it was just, the guy's like, come on in, and you just, no, like he freaks out. Again, no explanation, but again, the rules. That's what the rule is. And then, of course, the welcome, come on in, Matt. And I was like, shit. He's just, the disappointment in his face.
I loved that scene because, as weird as it sounds, but this shows how much I pay attention to the rules and stuff of these movies. When he comes into his apartment and Dracula's sitting there, my first thought was, what's he doing? How did he get in there? And then you see the Matt, and you see the oh shit look on his face, and I had a huge laugh. Samantha wasn't really paying much attention during that part, and she's like, what's so funny? I was like, he had a welcome mat, that's how he got in. And she thought about it for a second, and then she chuckled about it. I'm like, that's just a funny little joke, and like you said, it's not over explained or anything, but it works.
Yeah, it was a great.
It's super funny. I also like the scene. I like the scene in the beginning where Renfield brings him some victims, and he just takes a bite of that guy's finger, and he drinks some of the blood, and he's like, oh, it tastes awful. Because that's something that you don't really think about. Like, do vampires have a preference?
Clearly.
And just thinking about that, like, made me laugh, because I'm like, he's treating people really like they're, like, wine or something. Like, he likes what he likes, and he dislikes what he dislikes. And I don't know, something about that was funny, and I also love the scene where Dracula's talking to Renfield, and he's like, I don't ask for much, just a handful of nuns, a bus full of cheerleaders, and I'm like, yeah, that's not much. That's not much at all. You're not asking for much.
Sure, no.
And
I was just going to say another character that I really enjoy. I think this is just more the actor that I enjoy more than, his character's, there's nothing to the character, I guess. He's just kind of a jerk-ass, but Ben Schwartz, he's always a delight in movies that I see him in. He's always doing some, like, I guess I missed that he was in this movie, because when he showed up, I was like, oh shit. And then he became very prominent to the plot, and I was like, well, I'll be damned. I guess I missed him in the trailer somehow, but I really enjoyed his character, even though he's kind of, I don't say one note, but he's just kind of the bad guy, and just kind of becomes a problem within the movie. So don't want to knock him, but he was entertaining nonetheless.
How do I put this? There's no way to put this elegantly because of the way that I think it. And we cuss and everything else on this show. He's douchey.
Yeah.
But in a good way. Like it helps the film. Like you hate this character, but you love this character.
Right.
Because he's entertaining. Like, he's a douche that's entertaining. He's like your buddy that never grew up and is good for a laugh. Plus, the scene where he fights Renfield, and they show, like, I say it's the Mortal Kombat style, because it does like the X-ray slow-mo, and he shits and pukes blood. That was pretty badass.
I think I even made that reference when they did that, the spine. Was it a spine? Like, he kicked him and you saw the spine or something like that?
Yeah, he kicks him so hard that it, like, ruptures everything.
As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh shit, he just Mortal Kombated his ass.
And I love in the beginning, too, where he's got all the drugs, and he's at the, the traffic stop, and he gets out, and he's like, I have a prescription for all this shit. And he's running off, and he's throwing the cocaine, and he hits the one cop in the face, and he's like, oh, cocaine. To me, that's like a, that's almost like slapstick comedy to a degree, and it works. Yeah. And then, as he's running, she fucking chucks her nightclub at him, and it's in the back of the head. It's just, I don't know, it works. And I know I'm going to get her name all messed up. What is her name?
Aquafina? Or the other one?
It's really Aquafina. Yeah. Okay, Aquafina, like the water. That's awesome.
Aquafina.
I like her. I like her as an actress. And as weird as it sounds, the first thing that I'd actually seen her in was Jumanji.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
But even in that, she's funny, and she has to take on, because, she plays one of the video game characters in it, and different people take over her character, so she has to talk in, like, different accents and things like that. She's really funny in that. I really liked her in this.
If you like her and you think she's funny and you want to see her doing her own stuff and just elevating it to another level, her show, you can find it on I want to say HBO. It's Max now. because we got to be on person. So on Max, you can find her show Aquafina as Nora from Queens, and that's loosely based on her life, like growing up in Queens. But she's Nora. She's living with her grandmother and her dad, and just trying to make her way in the world. And shit is hilarious. Probably like 10 episodes, 3 seasons. I guarantee you'll get a kick out of it, and even show Samantha because I guarantee she'll love it too. So
I'll have to do that then because I think she's hilarious. Wasn't she in what is the Marvel movie?
Shang-Chi.
She's in the one Marvel movie. That's what it is. I couldn't terrible with film names today. Yeah, she was good in that too though. I liked her in that a lot, and she seems to have chemistry with Nicholas Hoult in this film, and I'm glad. I'm glad that they cast the people that they did. I feel like they had the cast on point in this movie. Like, I really do. And Ben Schwartz, the woman who played his mother.
Oh, yeah.
I have seen her in other things, too. And she is just phenomenal. And I want to point out one scene with her. It's when she first meets Dracula. And she's legit trying to get on his good side, maybe become one of his wives.
Right.
And it's hilarious because it's like the same situation where you watch her son, which Ben Schwartz plays her son, Teddy. You watch Teddy react to it. To me, that is the most realistic reaction anyone would have in that situation. Because I can guarantee, just even for you to think about your mom trying to win over some random guy,
right?
It just makes you go, ugh. And it works.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to point out just real quick. I feel bad for Carol in this film.
Carol.
Because every time Carol goes to present her story, she gets interrupted.
That's right.
And it's like, fuck Carol, huh?
Yeah, she just wanted to share, and she couldn't even get it out. Yeah, but it was a good running gag.
Yeah, running gags are not a bad thing if they're done right. And that was another thing that I felt was done really well. Another big complaint I have, one big complaint, I wanted more Dracula and Renfield. Mm-hmm. Like, I wanted more interactions between the two of them.
Right.
I think that would have been fun. And that's why I think a prequel would maybe be entertaining, because there was a time when, if you listen to Renfield talk, there was a time when things were really fun and Dracula showed him the world. Come on, it'd be like a buddy comedy road trip movie before shit went to hell. And they could even start the movie with that. Renfield could be like, before shit went to hell, things were pretty good. And then it shows all of that.
Like, show where it went down.
I would be completely down for that. You don't have to go all the way back and show their first meeting and everything, but just show us a little more. Like, it's just because I want Nick Cage's Dracula.
I mean,
again.
It's not a bad concept. Like, I would, if they said something about doing a prequel where it was just kind of exploring their relationship over time, yeah, I'd definitely be down for that. But
yeah, I mean,
I don't really know. Like you said, it wasn't like some big breakout box office hit, but I don't really feel like it was a bomb either. I mean, it's not Flash level bomb.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a bomb. Anyway,
it was just a movie. I feel like it fell under the radar.
Yeah,
and I feel like, because I'm trying to remember when this came out in theaters. I don't think it was Avatar. I don't think it was Way of Water. It might have been. But I don't think so. There was something that come out, though, and I know The Pope's Exorcist had come out, and a lot of people went and seen that, I guess.
So this came out, let me see. Let me do some research while you're...
Yeah, because I'm not 100%, but I'm trying to remember. I know a lot of it is this movie got a little overshadowed, and I know that's part of the reason. Heck, I would even be okay if they decided to do, like, something like they could do like the Dracula Chronicles or something like that. Find a streaming service and do a limited series.
Yeah,
Nick Cage's Dracula for a limited series. That would be cool. What Dracula does in his off time. Right. Why not?
And you got Peacock. There you go. You got a new show ready and waiting.
Oh, you were talking about Max. Mm-hmm. And them changing their name. I saw a thing. It was a post like up on Twitter or somewhere. It said, okay, HBO has made its move. It's your move, Peacock.
Oh, yeah,
and I'm
about
like,
their name.
That would be a great joke, Hey, you guys want to come over?
They responded to it, though. Because weren't we having that conversation?
I think we did.
Or
it was off It was off mic, I think.
I know that it was just. I know I had that conversation with somebody who was like, yeah, instead of HBO Max is now Max, so everything needs to cut its name down, And Cock was one of those things, and Peacock was like, no, we're still going to be Peacock. It's sorry.
Think of how hilarious that would be, though. Like, hey, you guys want to come over tonight? Nah, I'm going to stay home and watch some Cock.
Like, what?
Come on. Oh, man. Yeah, I got a free subscription to Cock.
Cock? Okay, so, well, there you go. That explains every bit of it. So, like you mentioned, the Pope's Exorcist came out the same day as Renfield, but Renfield also came out like a week or so after Super Mario Brothers. So that was still dominating.
That's what it was. I couldn't remember if it was Avatar, if it was Mario, if it was one of those movies. But you're right, yeah.
Mario.
And you know what? Now that you say that, because we went to go see Mario with Little Man, and we're waiting in line to get in to go see it, and I see the Renfield poster. I'm like, I really want to see this. And it's weird because speaking of the other movie, Pope's Exorcist, I like Russell Crowe and everything, but for some reason I watched the trailer for the Pope's Exorcist and I had no interest.
Yeah, I get that.
Like, when it gets available somewhere, I'll watch it, but it's like, I don't know. I like this version of these characters. I think they should do, we had the comedy movie Teen Wolf. I think maybe they should do maybe they should do a comedy movie of the Wolfman.
What could that be?
That's the thing. Like, there's a lot that you could probably do with that.
And it's just trying to
find
the right hook, because
yeah.
Well, kind of what you were just saying there, like Wolfman, Teen Wolf kind of thing. I mean, that's what that is. It's like, what if the Wolfman was in college or high school and played basketball? Okay, that's that concept, but something more interesting. Like, what? I don't want to go down this rabbit hole because we've talked about we want to do like an entire episode of this. But yeah.
Could you imagine? Just hear me out here, because this is gonna sound weird. They did all the Universal and the Universal monster movies. They did cinematic universes before Marvel and all that. Imagine if they had a comedy version. If it was done right, I could see it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking like way off, out of somewhere else. But I don't know. I like the comedy aspect of these. These characters were always supposed to instill fear, and you overdo that. And then when you take it from a different angle, it's just entertaining.
Sure.
And I hope more people watch this movie. I hope more people decide, yeah, I'm gonna get into Renfield, and that it gets a following, because I think the world needs a little bit more of Nicolas Cage as Dracula. I'm just gonna say it. I think he was a big selling point of this film. Nicholas Hoult, I will give him credit all day. I think he was badass. He cuts off that guy's arms with a serving platter.
That was a good one.
Which gets called out. I don't know if you remember. Did you watch the credits as they rolled and they showed some video? So something happens in that makes you uncomfortable. I don't know if you saw that or not.
May not have.
So it shows Renfield fighting one of the SWAT guys, and he grabs the SWAT guy's hand and he degloves him.
Oh yes, I do remember that.
And then he throws the skin in his face. Anybody that rips off a guy's arms and then uses them as nunchucks and then throws them to impale someone is badass in my book. That's another thing, like the effects in this film. Dracula looked great when he was not to full power and he was all like deformed and everything. Looked awesome. Some of the effects with like the blood and everything were a little off, just slightly. But I didn't think it was necessarily a bad thing. Like, it sort of helped the film, I think, because it added this like cheesy feel to it. And I think you need like that slight level of cheesiness with something like this. Like, this movie didn't take itself too serious, and maybe that's another reason why I really liked this Dracula, because if you think about it, Dracula is serious in this movie. Like, even when he's funny, he's playing the straightforward character. Right. And maybe that's why I like this movie, because Dracula Dead and Loving It, same concept. Leslie Nielsen, he was known for, that was who he was. He was the guy that he did everything in a serious way, even if it was comedy. That was his whole gimmick. He was serious. Right. Even if he was saying the most ridiculous thing or doing the most ridiculous thing, dead serious. Nicolas Cage in this, dead serious throughout the film, even through the funniest parts of the film. maybe heck, I think I might have figured out why I enjoyed this
There you
movie
go.
so much just
Yeah.
now. So, I don't know. Here I am rambling on about it. What all did you think? Because I know you've put some thought in. I feel like I'm talking like over you today, and I apologize.
No. I mean, for a lot of what I've had to say, I've just been kind of complimenting anything you've been saying. It is a lot of fun. It's a good comedy. It's got some good gore. Action sequences are all great, in my opinion. I thought they did some really interesting stuff with Renfield. That was the one in the... I don't really know what you'd call that. I know there's a term, but it's like the apartment building or whatever that they were staying in, or motel or whatever.
The complex.
Yeah. And then the one, there was like a bad guy kind of hanging off the railing, and he just kind of jumps down on top of him. It's like, oh shit! Just some interesting concepts like that they kind of interwove into the story, into the scenes. I'd say, I won't say 100% it's him, but one of the writers of this film was Robert Kirkman, who people may know the name from The Walking Dead. He's the creator of that, Invincible. It's that other one that he did. It was really awesome. There's another one, I can't remember what the hell it is. I don't want to ponder on it. But no, he's an incredible writer. He's done a lot of interesting stuff. His Walking Dead run in the comics is far superior to that of the AMC TV show, which they run into the ground and milk that cow for all it's worth. But I'm not going to say anything more than that. If you love it, good on you, man. That's all I'm going to say. I had to bow out. But no, this, his production company was behind this, Skybound, so maybe they could see some possibilities with the concept. Fingers crossed. I don't know if Universal would have to have a say in that or not. I don't know what I understand sometimes it's, here's the production company, they just foot the bill, and then the big studio just put it out. So I don't know how much Universal put into financing this and what their cut is. So that could be the make or break, like you said, for a potential sequel, prequel, follow-up, anything. But I would love to see one. I think where they kind of left it off could play off into some interesting concepts. Prequel idea is a fantastic idea. I think they could do it. I think it would be a fun, interesting time to explore. But we'll see if that ever happens. And if you're worried about time with the movie, I mean, it was fair. Like we said, breezy. Kind of rushes little things at times, but 90 minutes, I mean, what can you ask for? I think that was about how long it was. It was,
yeah, somewhere in that realm, yeah.
So if you like short, breezy movies, this is definitely one of those that'll you'll get through pretty quick and not even realize it. I thought I was fairly invested for the most part, so I was kind of engaged. I don't know, it's just a lot of fun, and might not be everybody's cup of tea, but I think ideas like this are fun. This is not necessarily in the same vein, but this is a movie I kind of want to do a deep dive on at some point, which is Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. The comedy element is there. Now, granted, in that movie, it's the monsters are the horror, and then your comedians are the comedy. So they never try to really blend the two. Whereas here, it's a little bit more of a gray area with Nicolas Cage kind of doing his thing. But as we said, he's sinister, and he can do those a bit over the top stuff, and then he comes back down and kind of puts the terror back in it. So in that same vein, really trying to find that balance. I think that's what this movie does great. And you have Chris McKay, who is kind of a comedic director. He did stuff like, I think he did Robot Chicken, some more Adult Swim stuff like Moral Oral, and I think he even did the Lego Movie, for matter of fact. So he has a background in comedy, so he gets that, but then clearly he understands horror. So he married the two, and it just works. And that's great. If you can find the balance, we've talked about that before with comedy and horror. You find that balance, and it's a thing of beauty. And I think this movie did it very well. So it's a lot of fun and entertaining for a 90-minute movie.
Yeah, I mean, I would put it on my watch list. Like, I have a handful of films that are like horror comedies that I would watch, and I think I would add this to my list because, like you said, it's a quick watch, and it's not boring. It holds your attention. Yeah. And I think that's why I feel like it was rushed, because I wanted just a little bit more. So,
which is understandable.
But maybe that's And, maybe it's a good thing that it left me wanting a little bit more, because that means they could maybe make a little bit more and set something else up.
Exactly.
So, I don't know. Whether they do a series or they do another movie, a prequel, whatever, I hope it happens, because this is definitely, I think, a good direction.
Mm-hmm.
This is if I'm correct, Dracula's public domain now, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
He's been public
Yeah.
domain, if I remember right.
Pretty sure.
A lot of these Universal monsters are not the Universal aspect, I'm sure, but these characters are public domain, so it's not like you couldn't tell your own version of these stories.
Right. And that does kind of make me wonder, because now Universal has never been, or at least I have not noticed any kind of similarity, but while they do have these iconic classic monster movies based on characters from books that are most definitely in public domain now, I cannot imagine they're not. I don't feel like they've ever tried to gatekeep those characters, unlike a certain House of a Mouse that has adapted so many books or fairy tales, and they're just like, no, this is ours now. And it's like, but it's not. You've just made your own version of it, so other people can do it too. And they're just like, but. So I've and maybe I've missed something to where Universal has done that, but I've never heard that before, So I mean, I kind of respect them for that they've not tried to gatekeep these characters, knowing it's futile.
even their versions of the monsters that they've done in film. I feel like look at all the movies that they've done. Look at all the references that other companies have made to them. To me, it almost seems like Universal's one of those companies that's like, you want to use our characters? Well, give us a little piece of the pie and do what you want. Like, that kind of seems like the way that they think.
It's kind of true.
And then you've got, as you said, the House of the Mouse. I'm sure that to use any of their characters or even make reference to, you would have to do all kinds of crazy things.
Yeah. Oh yeah, jump through a litany of hoops.
It's just like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Disney and Warner Brothers was a huge fight, and both the companies refused to work on the film unless an animated character from each of their studios was on the screen at the same time. I do think, however, Warner Brothers actually got the last laugh, because I think right at the beginning when they show the logo and everything, I think they showed just Warner Brothers characters. So Warner Brothers kind of had the last laugh in that one, if I remember right. I feel like I read that somewhere and looked into it. It's studios. Yeah. It's the best way to put it.
Oh, yeah.
Studios are studios.
But, I'll even kind of reinforce what you said there. I think that is kind of Universal's thought process, because using Marvel as an example, they own the rights to film and TV versions of the Hulk, and they've not had any interest in making a movie. That's why we've not had a Hulk movie since The Incredible Hulk in 2008. They just they don't want to put the money up for it. So now, since they own the rights to the character, Marvel has just said, well, can we just use it? And they're just like, yeah, doesn't matter. Here. And then they give them royalties for whatever, and then that's that.
Now, I thought I had seen somewhere that Hulk reverted back to Marvel.
Well, that is something that's about to happen. So
I was going to say,
it's not far off.
I would really love to see like a World War Hulk or Planet Hulk or any of those movies. I think that would be cool to see.
But yeah, I mean, that's
just putting that out there.
That's just proof that, studios can play nice. You don't have to be greedy about it. And the fact that they were just like, yeah, we don't want to do it, but if you want to do something with it, have at it, And what have they done? They've just played with that toy, I mean, granted, they legally couldn't do a movie, but they found ways around that. So why not just?
Well, you look at the whole drama scene with Spider-Man. Sony and Disney had a huge issue with that character, and there was a time where it didn't look like Spider-Man was going to be in the Avengers or anything else. It's, to me, it's asinine, but it is.
No,
you
have the amount of. I know it's just a movie. But for God's sakes, man, after all that drama hit, after the second movie came out, what was it, Far From Home? And then they left us on such a cliffhanger, and like, well, Sony and Marvel are fighting again, so the character may be gone. And she's like, wait, what? No, you can't do that, not now. Yeah, I got so much anxiety over that. It was just ridiculous.
You know, to me, it's like, how much of that is really happening and how much of that is genius marketing?
Yeah, I've kind of wondered that
Because
too.
the next one comes out and you're like, well, this might be my last chance.
Yeah,
Like, maybe.
good point.
I don't know. I just drives me crazy. But I don't know. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about Renfield?
No, I just recommend it. Peacock, it's starting to become my go-to place for some reason. I didn't think I would have a lot to watch on there, and now I've been watching it almost every day because of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's a good show. That's another thing you got to check out on Peacock. I know that's not horror-related, but it's funny.
Samantha's a big fan of it, and I've seen clips of it, but it is something that we probably need to watch. I'm weird. I never watched House, and then I started seeing clips from House, and Hugh Laurie is like perfect at playing an asshole. Because House is just an asshole. And so I've been kind of watching that on Peacock. And I don't know if they do it for all their movies. I got the really good deal for Peacock for the new year. It's like $1 a month.
Nice.
And that's with ads. But the other night when we watched Renfield, they played like 4 ads at the beginning. And then they played ads after it. No ads in between the movie. I don't know if they do that with all of the movies or not. Because I haven't really watched very many movies on it. I need to watch Cocaine Bear.
I have heard that they seem to do that with their movies, which I think is, you can't beat that. If you want to give me all the advertisements up front, if I'm having to pay for them, just you cram them all in the beginning and I don't have to have my movie interrupted, I will take it. Give me 5 minutes, or however many it's going to accumulate to. If you're going to interrupt me, give it to me all at once. I'll deal with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And see, for the TV shows, like for House, they played ads in between, but they didn't play that many ads. It was like the same amount of ads that you would have. Actually, I think it was probably less than what you would have watching TV. And I didn't mind that, but yeah, I think it was like 120 seconds worth of ads at the beginning of Renfield. That was it.
Not bad.
Sat there and watched it, no problem. And then the other night while I was watching TV on there, just watching some TV show, it started playing an ad, then the ad stopped, and it just went right back to the show. And it did that for a few ads, and I'm like, well, okay, that's fine with me.
I'm not going to complain here.
But yeah, no, I love how Peacock's been getting movies like right after they get out of the theater. Like, they're really good about that, and that makes me really happy. And it seems like they're starting to get a lot more horror films than what they had before. Because when I first logged into Peacock and looked, they had some new horror films, and I was like, oh, that's cool. We got the newer ones, but is there going to be more of a library? And then the next thing I know, more of a library.
Right.
And I was like, well, okay, I can deal with that. But here we go talking about Peacock. But no, yeah, I will agree with you on Renfield. It's a fun movie, and I think people should watch it.
Absolutely.
And I think people should love Nicolas Cage's Dracula, because I don't know about you, but I need more of that in my life.
Yeah, I'm not going to complain about it at all.
But yeah, if that's all you got on it, I guess you can tell the people where to find us and all that fun stuff.
Well, Ramblers, what do you think about Renfield? Tell us on Twitter at Horror Ramblings. And if you want to say a hell of a lot more, if you want to give us one of those big juicy emails, you can do that at horrorramblings@gmail.com. If you want to discuss horror with like-minded individuals, you can join our Facebook group or join us in our Ramblers room on Discord. Either way, we'll have a nice big conversation about whatever you want to talk about, maybe even stuff that you want us to talk about on this show. You can even find us on Instagram to see an assortment of horror images. If you're feeling generous, want to support the show, head on over to patreon.com/pencil and paper productions and help the show grow by leaving a review on your favorite podcasting app. Just give us those 5 stars. You don't even have to write anything. You can just do like a thumbs up or an emoji of some sort. If they don't even force you to do that, don't do that. You can tell your friends to find us on their favorite platform as well. If you happen to be using Spotify, look at our polls. Like I mentioned, what did you think of Renfield? That's probably a question I'll put up. And finally, if you prefer a central hub, keep up with any and all things at pencilpaperproductions.com/horror-ramblings. Links are in the show notes for your convenience.
And remember, guys, stay spooky out there.
This has been the Horror Ramblings podcast. Join us next time for even more.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.